at the Muhammad trial.
Oh yeah, Muhammad.
Yeah, so they brought in this forensic psychiatrist who had done some like contractor work with the CIA, and various other agencies too. But he was
Was
the
it a psychiatrist or a psychologist?
psychiatrist, but
Psychologist.
he was
Right.
maybe Harvard based, or Mark Sageman, Mark with the C, Sage Man spelled normal like a sage man, but Mark with a C in his bow
Okay.
tie. In his bow tie,
Uh-huh.
basically argued that the FBI's method of taking this psychologically vulnerable young man and pumping him full of the rhetoric and ideology and basically conning him, tricking him, was nothing to do with how counterterrorism is waged, that it is completely an unrelated activity, that it basically, I mean, I'm taking it to the next level because he was subtle, because he was an expert witness, but basically he was implying that the dignity of this psychologically disturbed young man was violated in a medical ethics sense, that it was a waste of FBI money because it actually did nothing to improve national security, and that it was very opposite of policy on the ground in CIA, where he had just like been flown back from Afghanistan or something, where he's training people operationally. And basically he's pointing out that the FBI's little method of like taking a disturbed individual and getting them all hyped up and scaffolded into this position is it's just unscientific, not helpful, a waste of money. And it was kind of the pinnacle of the whole trial in a way for me, his testimony, because it was a complete refutation. It was CIA v FBI. It was kind of embarrassing, in my opinion, for the FBI. It was maybe over their heads, is what I'm afraid. I
Yeah. Okay. So so let me think. So what did the on the on the on the cross examination, right? So here's the scale. The point that, like I said, the born that way, right, was a product of these various assessments, we'll say, instruments they're called, the testing things that they use to determine the things that a neuropsychologist would use to test somebody. Those are called instruments. So if it's the Iowa Gambler, for example, or the Wisconsin card sorting, those are instruments. And based on those instruments, among the things that she assessed Jeremy Christian as having was a deficit in his ability to problem solve and to think fast. He was thinking slower than other people. I don't want to say cogitation, but yeah, the rate that his brain responded, he could not think as fast as the events were happening.
Hey, can you tell me this? Has this come up in the trial yet? Did he have a history of being pumped with any psychotropics, like antipsychotics specifically? Has that come up? Does he have a history with any
No, no, and at this stage of the proceedings, see, because the state's side is basically that here's this mad dog killer, right? And he planned all this, and he went out and he stabbed these people because he's a mad dog killer, right? And so their position has nothing to do with his having any kind of a mental state that would in any way uh, portray him anything to what they're saying. He's a mad dog killer, right? Okay, so then the defense comes in, and that's where they start raising, like with the forensic psychologists. You notice the defense are the only people that call him as a witness because it's never good for the state to have him come and talk about these people's, actual, problems with their brain physiology or whatever's going on, right? So no, it's always going to be the defense. Okay, so now that we're into the defense part of the trial, we can even start thinking about what, if any, diagnosis or diagnoses that Jeremy Christian has, and one of the things that the gal said, the psychologist said, was that she could not find a DSM-5 diagnosis of Jeremy Christian. And so the Mr. House is kind of hammering on, well, gee, you didn't diagnose him with anything. And then in the, kind of rebuttal to that, the defense gets to ask her on redirect, because she's their witness, is a broken leg in the DSM-5? No. Well, can a person be diagnosed with a broken leg? Yes. So just because you have, what you're being diagnosed with isn't in the DSM-5 doesn't mean it's not a real thing. So what she was saying is she couldn't diagnose him with anything in the DSM-5, but she was diagnosing him with this deficit in executive function, which was the product of these various things, which was the ability that, the spatial thing, with the slowness of thinking, the perseveration, being stuck on one idea regardless of feedback to the alternative, right? And so that was her thing, right? And then it kind of the state tried to pick at her about her raw data versus her whatever, and they really didn't have much to say to beat her down, except to say that you're saying that this guy, just killed these people because he couldn't help himself or whatever, right? And that's basically what she was saying, because that's basically what happened. And okay, so the other thing was that once he was shoved down, that triggered the fight or flight, triggering the sympathetic nervous system, which then does its own inhibitions to the brain's ability to process the way it would process absent the fight or flight response. So that became an important part of the analysis and the defense and finding out that here's this guy who was born with this thing. He already has these conditions, his brain deficits that tests show, and then he's put in a circumstance that he is triggered with fight or flight chemicals at a time when he can't cogitate as fast as the events are happening, because when you're in the fight or flight response as part of the survival mode, you can't think. You're pulling your hand off the stove before your brain even gets a chance to get the message. The way you would get the message, but it's responding in the survival mode because that's the way we're wired. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Right. So that and this 11 seconds was considered not to be long enough time for him to actually process that.
Wow.
And then they bring in the forensic psychologist who says your daddy had Alzheimer's.
Oh.
No, your daddy had what I say, autism.
Oh, great.
Your daddy had autism, your brother had autism, your other brother had autism, and if the father had autism, your chances of having autism are 1 in 4. We don't know, we do know with Down syndrome very well, that the genetic component, but with autism, there's 400 genes in play. We have no idea what's going on. The medical science has no idea what causes autism. But it does follow genetically through the father.
Yeah.
Okay, so then they start saying, like, what's up? How come nobody said, and 2013, just amalgamated them under the autism spectrum.
Yes.
And they talked, as we mentioned, about Asperger being the Nazi.
Oh, yeah, which, gosh.
Right?
Right.
But anyhow, his determination was the manifestations of the being loud and saying things that were socially inappropriate.
Mm-hmm.
But all those are manifestations of autism. So that was a defense. That was a defense expert witness that, you know, saying the N-word to someone and not realizing that it offends them is a product of not being able to put yourself in another person's shoes. To not be able to think about what this means to the person, to the other person.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the social I don't know, the antisocial, the inability to socialize, the problems with social, reading social cues, acting out inappropriately on the train when everybody's saying not to, and is a product of the inability to respond appropriately to social cues.
Yeah. Like, they call it antisocial behavior in Britain, whereas we would say antisocial meaning not liking to socialize. They mean it as inability to have any meaning, like against the social order. It could mean anything from rioting to spitting is antisocial behavior, or graffiti or something.
Right.
Or slashing throats on a train. That could be rather antisocial.
Then there was a discussion of the 19-year-old Jeremy Christian went to, and this is like, 2020 hindsight, filling in the whole
Can I put you on pause for really quick? I promise I'll let you back. 19-year-old Christian, what? You're on pause. Can I just throw you something really quick? There is a British social phenomenon by which they tried to encapsulate the accessory to a crime. So if you and 5 guys go and kick an old man to death, even if you just stood there, you can go in for homicide, and you'll have homicide on your name if you were just the guy who stood in the background not knowing what to do. And there's a movement to repeal that because sometimes they can only lump that kind of charge on the accessory. But it has a specific name and problem. So anyway, back on Jeremy Christian. But I mean, was Micah Fletcher an accessory under that way of thinking?
No. Actually, what you just brought up is, I overheard a guy saying that there were 3 people serving the same murder. He was working in the law library as a legal assistant, or whatever they call it, paralegal. But that was his $2 a day job working in the prison industry was having a job in the law library, right? Mm-hmm. And I just happened to overhear him talking about that somebody got a pass to the library, right? Which meant that they had a chance to even talk.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If one of them was in one unit in the prison, the other one's in the other unit in the prison, and they never eat together, and they never go to chow hall together, and they never go to recreation together, and they never get to meet, one of the ways that they do get to meet is by having one of them be working in the law library when another one gets a pass to go to the law library. Right. So as part of that, I just happened to overhear the guy saying that there were 3 people that were serving for the murder of the one person.
Yeah.
Because one person killed and the other ones were in for, being in on it, part of the same robbery or whatever it was. Let's go rob Granny, and somebody kills Granny, and then they all have to go to prison for murdering Granny when they were just in on the robbery. They weren't in on the murder, but they just were in on the robbery that Granny got murdered at. So they get thrown in for the murder, and so that kind of stuff happens.
So you were saying 19-year-old Jeremy?
Yeah, 19-year-old Jeremy Christian mad at the Korean grocer who accused him of shoplifting when he didn't do it,
Wow.
Got a gun with bullets. Got a gun, got some bullets, and had a mask and went to the place where they knew who he was, and he robbed them for $500, and he handcuffed me, and he got caught and convicted of kidnapping and robbery. And then when he got out of custody on that, they gave him a form to sign because it was saying that he couldn't possess a firearm, and he said that was against his Second Amendment right, and he refused to sign the form, and he ended up getting arrested for having a firearm and got sent to custody, which is all showing that the guy's got a screw loose because he gets fixated on an idea, and regardless of the feedback, you know, to go to the store where they knew who he was. Kind of, the forensic psychologist was saying it just didn't make sense.
Do you want to know how weird my childhood was? When I was like a 3-year-old baby, my dad was writing. He had this Maine crony who's his best friend, who was a historian, and we lived in Nashville, Tennessee. So my dad was writing what he hoped would be like a script for a movie treatment of the Jesse James bank robbery scene. And his partner Ted Yateman was like the researcher, and my dad was more like the script writer or like the theme story writer. And so as a little, oh yeah, into the bad phone. I'm back. So basically, my really early childhood dealt with like comprehending a gunfight and a bank robbery, and why is my dad this weird guy who sits at the McDonald's too long working on it? He would treat the McDonald's like a Starbucks and just like use it as his little study alley with his main friend. So I actually even realized that some of the indirect associations are that my dad put some kind of off-color treatment in it where Jesse James threatens to shoot a guy's balls off or something and make a woman out of you is how it's phrased. That castrate him by gunshot. And somehow, like, it occurred to me when I was having to deploy, like, self-defense measures that, or contemplating those, that was my dad. When I thought about it later, I was like, hey, that's my dad, actually, that told me to go for a guy's balls. Because obviously, women don't have that. We have everything else guys go for when they're attacking us. But it is a really nice safety valve, and the whole machismo, male energy catastrophe is that... Do men really even like? I don't know. Or are some men impervious to that? It's basically a universal like disabler, right? I wouldn't know. Mr. Eng does not know what it's like to be kicked in the balls.
Well, it hurts. Well, of course it hurts. I don't know why it's such a protective thing, except it's a family jewel, right? So yeah, it's definitely it's wired for pain for sure.
And one could wonder: is it a design defect or is it a design asset? Because to me, it's like a computer; you can always unplug it. Like if somebody could have kicked Jeremy Christian in the nuts, could the massacre have stopped? I mean, the slashing have stopped? Like, if somebody had actually deployed effective technology to completely disable him. You know Ben Pickering, my old friend? He had a story of disarming a knife before. It is possible.
I think I think if I think the way it really went down was that
it would have been disproportionate force.
Really, I guess what we're getting into deep selling and philosophy here with this thinking. I don't even want to have to take it where we're going. Okay, here's the overarching question question I have for you is, why are there transit cops there every stinking day? What's their jurisdiction if they're in the hallway all day in the trial?
Oh, wow.
Every day.
Wow. They're really intrigued by it all.
Milwaukee, Gresham.
It's a training exercise. Or it's causing them to think hard.
Multnomah County Sheriff, Transit Division.
Uh-huh.
Why are there Transit Division cops at the Jeremy Christian trial? And why did the sheriff corrections deputy say, "Oh, there's only 2 of you. We'll have to do Plan B." So there's some of that. There's some amount of court security that's being provided by the Transit Division of well, we have to say the Portland Police, although it's everywhere climate goes. So I've seen cops from Milwaukee, and yeah.
Wow.
I haven't seen a Hillsborough cop yet.
Huh. My cousins are Hillsborough cops. They want to retire. They're over it. That's what Uncle Richard said.
Yeah, okay, so that's the question. Okay, so the other thing is, I think Jeremy Christian was 6'3" and something north of over 200 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
230 maybe more.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay, so at that much physical mass of a man, right?
Mm-hmm.
If he is having been pushed down, shoved down onto the seat backwards twice, right? At that point, he's going to be having fight or flight. At the point he's handling a knife, he's going to be experienced fight or flight,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that extra on top of whatever else he had going on. And he was an experienced fighter. He's fought a lot. He had 20 fights as an adult, at least. Right, and he fought in prison, right, because he went to prison for 10 years, so he fought, and he fought on the street, so there's no question that he knew how to fight. And so, I don't think anybody could have stopped him. The only thing that stopped him is he ran out of people.
After the push down, but what about before the push downs? Like, if a pretty lady had come and talked to him about, like, wow, you're like a really cool dude with long hair, he could have been like on a date to a concert.
No, it's that wasn't happening because Michael Fletcher had already see the use of force testimony yesterday was that what Kelly did, and it was reflected. It bubbled up a couple of ways, right? When they finally got in their 2 lines of redacted Jeremy Christian in custody telephone, which took like all afternoon for them to redact the pages or whatever they're doing, so they could actually have the.
Oh my God! I know what I think.
Uh-huh. What's her name? Michelle Mitchell.
Oh, Michelle Mitchell.
The chief detective.
Oh, okay.
She was able to reference the I'm trying to think. I don't want to get my witnesses confused. I just want to tell you what the evidence was. Jeremy Christian was in custody.
Oh, hey, we have to stop. This is.
Hold
up.